about you guys.
She has a different voice and a different understanding.
Today, we are bringing you Antony. Antony actually is the CEO of two unique factories. One is BMarko Structures, and the other one is Villavo, which is very exciting because it is a factory that's going to be doing multifamily product. So welcome today. How are you?
Hey, Audrey, it's great to be here with you. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
I love that you are always extending and thinking outside the box, literally. And what I'd like to do is let's kind of jump in a little bit with BMarko Structures. Can you just give us a little bit of some background on the company, and then specifically maybe a little bit more about your design build process and how and why it's so unique right now in the marketplace?
Yeah, so BMarko Structures, we started BMarko in 2014, 8 years ago. And really where we've taken it is one of the leaders in shipping container modifications in the United States. And so with BMarko Structures, really our building platform is based on shipping containers. And where we are placed in the market is we do anything with containers. It's a wide gamut of projects. We really respond very quickly and efficiently to any of our clients' needs. And so behind me, you're seeing a project we did with Wing, which was actually the first FAA approved drone delivery package system installed in Virginia. And we have a lot of different projects we do with BMarko. As far as how we've shaped our design and production process with BMarko Structures, every project is different for that company. And so essentially we go through an extensive pre-construction cycle, identifying all of our materials, all of the needs of each project. And that's really the key of modular construction, as we've talked about in the past, is making sure you got your I's dotted and your T's crossed, making sure that when you enter production, you're able to have as quick of a build cycle as possible, which sometimes it correlates to only 3 weeks or 6 weeks, 7 weeks, depending on the size of the project.
Do you find that it's uniquely more difficult or easier working with a steel frame type of structure?
Yeah, so going with steel, containerized, or steel modular, or even going with wood, it really stems from what the end result is. So shipping containers are phenomenal for relocation, and also they're excellent for very quick lead times. So you're starting with a complete box. So a lot of the elements of the finished building are there when you start with it. So essentially it really depends on what you're trying to build. And that has been a motto for BMarko Structures since the beginning, because we haven't only put our hands in shipping container buildings. We've done steel modular before, and we still 5% of everything we do, I would say, is still modular with BMarko. And of course, last year, which is what launched Villavo, which we're going to be talking about in a second, is this project behind me, which was a 315 module project, wood modular, in a new factory that we built in Greenville, South Carolina, to build a 190 low-income housing project in South Carolina.
I think that's super exciting because you and I both know that to be fully integrated, vertically integrated, you really have to change the way that you are thinking about applications. And especially in the multifamily segment, we are seeing that there's really only maybe about 20 factories in the United States that are really digging in and actually having that as their sole source of building. So with Villavo, how has that changed for you, becoming from a steel structure and doing one-off custom work for your specific clients to now going into multifamily? How has that pathway worked for you?
Yeah, actually, I'm going to answer that twofold. I think this is going to be an interesting way to describe it. So the big difference with Villavo is twofold. One is, in order for you to be as efficient as possible, building multifamily or anything for that matter through a factory, you really want to set certain constraints around your factory and what you can build. You know, if you can do everything for everybody, then chances are you're not as efficient in the factory. Well, not chances are, that's factual
It's the
information.
truth, right? And that's
Uh,
what's so great that you specifically say that, because actually knowing your parameters and knowing exactly what you can build really changes the discussion and makes it easier for you and the client.
mhm. Exactly. So what we found last year when we built our Greenville, South Carolina factory is that we had spent millions of dollars into our jigs, into our processes, into all of our fixtures, into the whole layout of the plant, really, all the way down to the crane equipment. And we had hyper tailored that to that one project we're building, which actually you can see one of the units behind me. Uh, Now, what we found out is that the constraints we had imposed on ourselves weren't as applicable to that many other developers. And so what that meant is we would need to rejig and retool time and again every time we change developers. And the realization there is that really the reason we started this company is to truly embed manufacturing into construction. And in order to do that, you need to control design. Okay, so if you knocked on Tesla's door and asked them to build you a Camry, okay, they would laugh at you and then off you go, and that's the end of the conversation. Well, why? Because they have imposed all these constraints, right? They can build this one chassis. I mean, maybe they have a few options, of course, and it's defining what those options are. And a lot of people are actually talking about that, and that's the right conversation in the industry. What are enough options for us to offer, yet not too many where it's going to make us inefficient in the factory? And that's what we're doing with Villavo. So the vertical integrated approach is for us looking at that apartment as a product. And so breaking it down into every component, into a wall panel, into a bathroom panel, a bathroom pod, actually, a kitchen pod, a ceiling panel, a floor panel, in creating consistency from apartment building to apartment building, and really, of course, apartment to apartment. And so us owning the design process and actually us kickstarting our own real estate development arm is really going to allow us to create that shell for us to repeat our designs and achieve DFMA, design for manufacturing, put manufacturing at the forefront of our decision making.
And I think it's super smart to be able to do it in development and figuring out what, first of all, building your pre-construction team is the first and foremost, as we both know, in any type of offsite solution. So one, you're already achieving that by being able to be the developer and talking and figuring out what is the solution in that area, modifying your product so that it actually fits for that specific area, that specific community, and then also having the efficiencies and speed to marketplace, right? Because I think from my experience in talking with developers, everybody wants to come in with this great big idea and they want to change it all up. But the problem is then they're not getting their product done quickly. It's affecting the way that we work in the assembly and in the factory. And it seems like you guys have put those solutions together from past experiences and really have motivated and moved this stuff forward. And are you seeing that from doing it this way and being involved in all those spaces that you're creating better efficiencies?
Well, by definition, so Villavo, we're at the early stages now. Our first factory is going to be operational in 2024. That's projected for April at this point. And so, I mean, on paper, absolutely, the theories behind it, we've already proven that when we didn't have that, it was much more difficult. And Audrey, I just realized I told you I'll talk about two things for Villavo, and
Yes.
I talked about one thing.
Yes.
The second one might be interesting, and I think would be helpful to anybody watching this. When we got into this, we found we're talking about ground up multifamily now. We really found that real estate development in the United States is backwards. And what do I mean by that? I mean, you can actually see that right now. I mean that when your interest rates are low, when there's excitement, cap rates are low. When there's excitement about development, there's a lot of capital flow coming into real estate. A lot of money available both from the equity side of the equation and the debt. So everybody's excited, everybody's building. Now, the problem is when interest rates go up, right? And when the market slows down, cap rates go up, everything stops. So capital flow defines real estate development. That's backwards because when you talk about building an 80 unit apartment project, 120, 250, 300 unit project, you're looking at, figure to start planning all the way to have keys, I don't know, figure, 3-4 years. And so by definition, real estate is cyclical. So if you're starting when everything is great, you're starting right here, right? Then chances are that 3 years or 4 years later, things are going to be low. And so we're backwards in this country. So by us controlling real estate development, we're actually able to change that and change how capital flows into the market. And we talk about the North Star for Villavo is closing the massive housing shortage, which is 5 million homes. You want to say 4 million? That's fine. It's 6 million? That's fine. I mean, it's in the millions, okay? And we're looking at a traditional construction method, which is old technology, and it's slow, okay? And on top of that, you amplify that by having discrete supply of housing because capital flows discretely and then projects start and then stop and then you got to catch up. And so you put these two factors together and then no wonder you look back and you're like, okay, I got a massive mismatch between my housing that I'm building and the housing that I need. And so that is something that the more we looked into it, the more we go closer into real estate development, the more we realize that is a massive thing to change. And it's interesting because December 7th is today, and you can truly see that, multifamily skyrocketed, and now the feds, increased interest rates, everything stopped. But we can't do that. And that doesn't work for factories either, right? So by controlling all these dials, all the way from design to development and having manufacturing in there too, there's a lot of things that need to change for us to be able to mass produce at the scale that we need to, in this country, and close that housing shortage. That's it.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And I think you are absolutely on target. And we are seeing a huge trend in developers actually building their own factories and controlling their product because of that very thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Something I want to mention, I didn't mention yet, that massive housing shortage really exists in workforce housing.
Yes.
The majority of that, and Audree, what you see is developers, very few are building workforce housing. Why? Because it costs about 80% the same as Class A, but rents are so mismatched, so you can't pencil out anymore building workforce housing. So you truly need to do something different, okay, for you to be able to finally build what's needed in the market today. And the vertical integration approach, I think, gives an answer to that with way faster lead times. We're talking about 60% faster schedules and 15% cheaper cost compared to traditional construction. That's what we're looking at.
You are right on target, and I couldn't agree more. And we are seeing, we're only 5% of the marketplace in offsite solutions. That's a given. But there's projections out there saying that in the next 10 years, it could be 20 to 30%. So in order for us to get to that place, in order for us to be at that opportunity, we have to start thinking about things differently and doing them a little bit different and breaking them down to the way that you are obviously moving forward to. Is there anything else that you'd like to say in closing about either one of your companies right now? We're super excited about your 2024 factory.
No, I think this was great. Yeah, I really enjoy talking to you like always, Audree, and it's a pleasure to share what we're working on, and of course, hear what you're working on as well. Exciting times.
Thank you. I appreciate you being here, Antony, and thank you for always evolving and thinking forward on how we can do things better in production and manufacturing, and wish you great success at BMarko Structure, and then also at Villavo that's coming in 2024 for multifamily. Yes, we so need it. It was a pleasure seeing you again today, and keep us posted on your progress. And again, here's another opportunity for you to learn a little bit more about offsite construction. How can people find you or get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can, if you go on Villavo.com or BMarkoStructures.com, there's email addresses in both websites, and if you reference my name, then that email is going to be forwarded to me.
Perfect. Well, thank you. We wish you great success. It's always wonderful to connect and catch up with you. And that's a little bit more to know about some offsite solutions that are really changing the way that we build. Thank you so much for being here. My name's Audree Grubesic. This is Offsite Dirt. Have an awesome day.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.